Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition and episode of Hands Across the Water, the multi-generational, multi-continental Beatles podcast. As you can see, there's only two of the hands here today, and joining me, as usual, is my trusty mate across the water over in the UK, Beatles Tone. Good evening. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Sandy. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and we're missing our hand there on the run. He's currently enjoying he's enjoying his summer vacation and traveling and visiting family. And it's been quite a bit since we've done an episode. We cranked out about 8 or so in the first 2 months of our show. We did a really fun episode where we deconstructed Strawberry Fields Forever, which went over really well. It was a lot of fun breaking that down. Tony, I know you had a good time with that as well.
Yeah, really enjoyed that one. It was good doing a deep dive into that song.
It was, and we're going to be doing more of that as well. And as you know, here we are late July. Fest is upon us, and this podcast will be making an appearance at the Chicago Fest, where Beatles Tone and Mrs. Beatles Tone will be coming over for their first fest, and Kyle and Phoebe will be there, and myself and the MVP will be there, and we will be having a panel titled Debunking Beatles Myths, which should be a lot of fun, wouldn't it?
I think it is. And there's lots of myths to debunk. So be a good one, and we'll be throwing a few curveballs in there as well. Yeah,
we certainly will. We can't tell you when or what day yet, but we will know pretty soon. And I've spoken to a couple of people. The schedule for the fest should drop on or around the 1st of August. So just keep an eye on that. Watch this space for more details. As soon as Beatles Tone knows where he's going to be, as soon as I know where I'll be, we'll have videos on our respective channels, and also here to kind of tell you where we'll be that whole weekend. But we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and if you see us at the fest, do come up and say hello, because you know what we look like, but we don't know what you look like. So,
yeah.
So it's up to you to come and say hello to us rather than the other way around. But we'd be really pleased to meet you all. It'd be great.
It'd be great. And listen, at the end of the night, we usually somewhere in the hotel there in the lobby, jamming out with our friends, listening to Beatles and solo Beatles and talking and meeting people from all over the world with two-leg stuff and now Hands Across the Water. People that know Tony from his own channel, which has such a respectful following and a loyal following, because he's got a great channel that covers everything. And us being just a Macca channel, and now with Hands Across the Water, it's a great way to come together, pun intended, just kind of connect with you all. Aside from whatever events are on the schedule at the fest, more about connecting with like-minded fans and friends like Tony and like Kyle and everybody else out there. So really looking forward to that in about a week's time, and safe travels to you. And this is Beatles Tone.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much. Let's hope so.
I think it'll be fantastic. And
I feel a bit like a globetrotter now, sort of coming over to Chicago and then having to coming over again to Montreal for Paul's gigs in November. I've never done so much traveling in 1 year, I don't think.
But
certainly not in mileage terms, anyway.
No, sir. But this is what retirement is like, and the good stuff, right? I mean, to enjoy. Yeah. I mean, you're coming over in August, and you're coming back again in November when we go see Paul in Montreal, and then the MVP and I are flying over to see you guys in December.
It's like we're never apart.
No, it's going to be a fantastic few months here as the summer winds down and we gear up for the fest, and then we say goodbye to summer, and the fall kicks off, and Paul's tour kicks off at the end of September, and then we're going to just set list watch and date watch and really hope and pray, Tony, that he doesn't add any more dates, right?
Yeah. Well, if he does, I won't be at them. That's for sure.
Never say never.
Unless it's in London. Obviously,
unless it's in London, unless he comes back to the O2.
Yeah, or possibly somewhere in Europe. If he was to go to Paris or Amsterdam or something like that, it's only a hop, skip, and a jump. Really, you go on a train now to those places.
You certainly can. And bravo on your latest video, where you did a really wonderful breakdown on your own channel of the ticket saga. We did one on two legs, of course, and you did a wonderful job explaining the process of the tickets, the buying, especially the explanation of the dynamic pricing and how you equated that to, like, this is actually not anything new. You actually said Amazon does that too. If something is hot on Amazon and you go and look, A week later, now it's shot up in price.
It does. It's ridiculous, and because when I was used to do those Beatley Tones Beatles bargains videos,
Yeah.
and I haven't done it for a while, not because I don't want to. It's just that there doesn't seem to be any bargains around at the moment. But I would say,
Except for home bargains.
yeah. Yeah, this item is on Amazon and it's this this price, but be quick because once they get a search, they'll put the price up, and people would come back and say in the comments, I really wanted to get there, but get this, but when I went on, by the time I'd seen your video and gone on there, it had gone up 50 quid or whatever it was, whatever it was. So it happens all the time. It's these damn algorithms.
It's the algorithms, and you did a wonderful job of showing how the third-party sites were really the ones charging, six figures for tickets, and it was not really Paul or Ticketmaster. Now, does dynamic pricing suck? It absolutely sucks. But as you explained in the video, when you were in the queue and the little box came up, it said, look, these tickets can go from anywhere from $38 to $4,000 and whatever. I think was the number that it showed.
Yeah.
And when we actually got in, you had spent about 15 minutes on the arena map looking, but you never saw the ticket prices increase.
I didn't. They also, I was looking, and all once I decided that I just couldn't stretch to hot sound at those prices. Once I started looking at other seats, and I looked all over the arena, on the floor, in the stands. I even looked at the nosebleed prices as well, just to see what they were in comparison. And I didn't see any price change, and that's why I kind of checked with the group to see if any of you guys had seen when you were in the buying room, whether you'd seen it, and none of us actually saw it. But what I knew would happen with that video is that I knew that people would just blame Paul. They would just like that, and he is partially accountable.
He absolutely is.
Because he can say no to dynamic pricing, and just generally take a smaller cut because he doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the money, but I knew that it wasn't really him that was setting that baseline number, and I just wanted to do a bit of investigation to find out who it was, who is it that's coming up with these prices.
And you did. And is it absolutely bonkers if somebody pays $45,000 for a front row seat? It is. But if somebody wants to, and they want to get that seat, and they're a millionaire, then they go ahead and do it. Shoehorning Paul into that equation does not work. No,
because that's not something that a general Paul McCartney fan would ever entertain. That is for people that have got more money than sense. And, and money, means absolutely nothing to them. They've got so much of it that they don't really need it. And the only other people that I thought that might pay that would be like big corporations, like investment banks or law firms that are doing, client entertaining or something like that. What a great treat to try and get some business, take your client out and, and stick them in the front row of a Paul McCartney concert.
Right. And I forget the other site that you had showed in your video, but that same seat went for about $12,000.
Yeah.
And another site was charging $45,000 for, which is still stupidly expensive.
Yeah. Well, even $12,000 is stupidly expensive, I think. But
And listen, we're not affording those seats. Beatley Tone and I are not people that are well off. We have worked hard most of our lives. Are we going to a couple of shows and sitting in some good seats? We are, but we're not going to 15 shows, and we're not paying, six figures to go either. So, if people want to criticize the prices, you got to pick and go. And Tony has said, and we've never paid this much for shows, but if you want to go, and what the experience is, having gone to the O2 in December and having gone to Manchester, we know what that is, and it's almost like once you get a little taste of it, you want to do it again within reason, though, because we both are not doing hot sound in Montreal because we were like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was a fantastic experience, and like you say, do want to keep it going. And there's also that other little thing that nags in the back of your mind: is this going to be the last chance I'm going to get to see him? I guess if you're thinking that way, then it's
it becomes a little more of an easier.
If there's any way that you can manage to afford those ridiculous prices, then you probably want to take it.
And this is only a theory here on my end, but I do think this is the last go around for him, because if he was going to do something new, he would have rebranded the tour, and he did not.
Yeah. I think you're probably right.
Will we know? We won't know until another album or another tour comes out, and then we've all been proven wrong. You see, but we won't. But that's just a guess. It's just a guess. But it's
But he hasn't. To be fair, he hasn't really been big on promoting his new albums on tour anyway. So he doesn't really need a new album as an excuse to go on tour. So just because if he puts out a new album doesn't really mean that he's necessarily going to tour it, because he did nothing for McCartney 3, did he? He played Women and Wives at a few shows early on in 2022,
and that was it,
and then dropped them from the set. He dropped it from the set, didn't he? And
and but again, equating Paul to the ticket prices, and listen, is it stupid that fans are paying that much? Yeah, I think it's crazy that somebody, but if that's their prerogative and they can afford that, or it's, as you mentioned, it's a business or a corporation buying up these seats, fine. But the average fan, and we know plenty who have go to lots of shows, they're not forking over that kind of money to go see Paul.
No.
Never. So just well done. And the link to Tony's video will be below. Check that out, because he gave a great breakdown of the entire process of how it works. And there are seats still available, and we both think that ticket pricing might drop because of the price.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that a few people in the comments on my video said that they had been priced out of seeing him. They wanted to see him, but they just can't stretch to those prices. And my advice for that is just keep watching the venues, because last minute deals do happen. They'd rather sell those seats cheap than not sell them at all.
And not sell them at all, right?
So we can point our mate Nick, who picked up a ticket for Manchester on the morning of the gig for around 120, 130 pounds.
Deal. So deals can be had. So just keep your eyes on the venues, and our Sun Down Under does a great job of reminding us that how many seats are left and how much they cost.
Yeah.
So, that's all the ticket buying stuff that thankfully is done. We've put it to bed. We've got our tickets. We've got the fest on the horizon. And moving ahead in the kind of clickbait hot take department, there's always something to kind of generate headlines. And the last few days, Billy Joel has garnered some headlines with a take on the Beatles White Album. Now, Billy Joel has a wonderful new documentary out called And So It Goes. It's a 2-part documentary that I believe is on HBOMax. It's a 2-parter, and Billy's done some promotion here in the States to promote this documentary. I've not watched it yet, but part 1, it's very much like Peter Jackson length, like 2.5 hours is part 1, and I think part 2 is also maybe it's an hour and a half, 90 minutes. Comprehensive. I've heard good things about it, and then during the course of the promotion of the documentary, Billy Joel made an appearance on the podcast Club Random, which is hosted by Bill Maher here in America, who is a late night talk show guy and has a podcast. He used to be on TV here in America. And he's garnered a lot of attention this week. And Billy Joel, if you know Billy's history, Billy is an ardent Beatle fan. He worships McCartney. He worships Lennon. He loves just about everything the Beatles have done, especially Abbey Road. I've seen him in concert. He worships the Beatles. Now, Tony, you're not the biggest Billy Joel fan, are you?
No, I'm not. I don't own any of his records. And Mrs. Beatley Tone has, I think, got a couple of his albums, but I only really know some of his hits, but I haven't heard any of his albums all the way through. I don't think.
Interesting. You don't really hear too many people that don't know Billy Joel.
Yeah.
As well, but I could see it, and it's a different take. But I'm sure Mrs. Beatley Tone would not like the comment that he said. So on this
Yeah.
show with Bill Maher, they were picking out classic double albums that they both like. And Bill Maher said, how about the Beatles, White Album, 1968? And Billy Joel was quick to criticize it. Quote, I'm not a big fan of the White Album, but some people love it. He says, go on, he says that, quote, I hear it as a collection of half-ass songs that they didn't finish writing because they were too stoned or they didn't care anymore. I think they had fragments and they put them on the album. He goes so far to admit as he thinks that John was disassociating at that point with Paul carrying the weight. That being said, Joel doesn't believe that the White Album detracts from the Beatles' legacy. While they had their ups and downs in quality, that happens with all bands. Sometimes they were more prolific and sometimes they weren't. He notes, I hear that in some of those songs. What do you think about Billy's take on the White Album?
Well, I just reference Paul McCartney and say, shut up, it's the bloody White Album. That's, I mean, the thing, we know what the White Album is. There are songs that are fragments, or I wouldn't call them half-assed, but there's some that let's call them like experimental. But but they're all part of the DNA of the White Album and
of what the whole thing is.
And I've always, the White Album is my favorite album of all time by anyone. And the thing that I always say about it is it's perfect in its imperfections. I love the sort of the throwaway stuff like Wild Honey Pie. I like, why don't we do In the Road? I like all that stuff because it just kind of breaks up the more serious songs, and the album, it just covers so many genres. That it's such an eclectic mix of songs. Admittedly, not their 30 best. It's not the 30 best Beatles songs, but as an album,
as a whole,
when you put it together, it's just a fantastic opus.
It is. Now, I played the recently delivered mono White Album over the weekend, and when it got to Revolution 9, I think the MVP nearly walked out of the house because it scared the crap out of her.
Has she never heard it before?
No.
Okay.
And she said her anxiety is off the charts. Can you please lower this or turn it off?
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, I've got to get through the rest of it because it ends with good night, so I'll just lower it for you, but you'll be okay. But to Billy's point, other than, say, Wild Honey Pie and Why Don't We Do It in the Road, I mean, I really kind of think it's a bit daft to say that anything else other than those fragment kind of tracks would be half-assed. I mean, would you call Long, Long, Long half-assed? Or,
no, I think it's a brilliant track.
Or Savoy Truffle, or Your Blues, or Sexy Sadie. I mean, come on.
No. There's a few little sort of, 1 minute, maybe 90-second tracks like the two that we've just mentioned, but there's not much else, is there? There's not anything else.
Happiness is a Warm Gun? No.
Yeah, brilliant song. Brilliant. I love that song. It's brilliant.
Martha, My Dear, brilliant.
Yeah, really good.
I'm so tired. I mean, Half Baked. Listen, does the White Album have that? And we of course saw this in the anthology. It was like John in a backing group, Paul in a backing group. It is a very much solo record with those guys doing those songs on their own, but they did, of course, work together on a couple of tracks. And I mean, Tony, you could probably quote this more quickly than I can because you're such a fan and a student of this album. Out of all the tracks on the White Album, Your Blues was a song that they did all together, right? Played as a band. How many other songs did all four of them actually play on the White Album?
I'm not sure without checking, but if you listen to the song, you can look at things like Happiness is a Warm Gun has got all of them on it. I'm sure. I kind of think of it more as being songs that have got like backing vocals and harmonies. When you talk about them doing maybe songs on their own, I'm thinking more along the lines of maybe something like Julia,
sure,
which is a solo track. I think Mother Nature's Son maybe is a solo track, but things like
Blackbird.
We know that Ringo wasn't on Back in the USSR or Dear Prudence.
No,
but he's pretty much on it. Any other song that's got.
I think that your point about the perfection of the record is its imperfection, and I love that take because I think that's the beauty of it. Revolution 9, all of it. You were looking at this entire 30-piece package, right? From, rockers like Back in the USSR to open it up, Helter Skelter, ballads like Julia, ballads like Blackbird, Mother Nature's Son, and then the weird stuff, Savoy Truffle, Don't Pass Me By. It's everything but the kitchen sink is throwing in on this album, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. And just just all the different genres. There's rock and roll, there's ballads, there's country, there's blues. There's so many different. There's kind of whimsical things like Honey Pie,
right?
Stuff like that. It's just so eclectic. It's just great,
and it's exactly what the Beatles represent and what they are. They were not one to keep doing what they were doing. They always wanted to change what they were doing previously. Sgt. Pepper, fantastic album. Of course, that's before the White Album. That was the last official issued album because Mystery Tour was an EP. So you're looking at this wonderful Summer of Love package of likeness, psychedelia, the colors, and now the stark, very kind of bleak looking album that's got, you don't even know what could be on it. The Beatles have changed their image a little bit now. They're kind of following that kind of return to roots thing, which kind of happened in the late 60s, right? That kind of get back to the roots, the kind of following the band approach and kind of just rocking out and not doing a whole lot of production of it. And I think that that's what the record represents. And I don't know why Billy Joel felt like he had to say that, but I felt it very odd for somebody who worships the Beatles as much as he does to crap on an album like that. It threw me off, and now it's clickbait, and you see it everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that album's got While My Guitar Gently Weeps on it, for goodness sake. And I'll tell you something else, Mr. Billy Joel. Uptown Girl is not getting on the White Album.
Oh, lordy. It's just, listen, I think most people will tell you now that it's large. When people ask me what's my favorite, it's the one it's the safe favorite because it is so different. As you imagine, it's not like if you listen to Sgt. Pepper, you're likely going to listen to Sgt. Pepper straight on from start to finish because it's a collective piece, right?
Yeah.
You could say the same thing with the White Album, although I think you can cherry pick the best stuff from the White Album and really have some wonderful standalone songs. I really think you could do that.
Yeah. Do you think it's like, because sometimes when you're looking along your record collection and deciding what you're gonna play, it kind of depends on the mood that you're in. But as soon as you come to the White Album, you think, well, actually, I'm not really sure what mood that actually suits. So I'll have that. There's bound to be something in there that's going to make me happy.
Right, because you could look at your albums, okay, I want to listen to some early Beatles, right? I want to listen to Hard Day's Night. I want to listen to Beatles for Sale. I want to stay in that for a little bit. But with the White Album, okay, I can put that on because I really don't know what it could be. Rocky Raccoon and everything about that record from the minute I heard it as a young kid, that diverseness was attractive to. That was a very attractive quality because you couldn't just pigeonhole it as a certain genre. It was everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I implore you, Mr. Joel, if you're watching this, give it a listen again. Give it a listen again and call up your old buddy there who has a house on Long Island near you and say, look, listen to our record again there, mate. Yeah. Imagine if Macca got wind of that and said, you said this about our album? What?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just funny. And but it is clickbait. It's a very Jeff Slate-esque take. I will check out the documentary, and so it goes. And I'm sure Mrs. Beatley Tone will as well. Have to have a chat with her about it.
If we can get it over here, we'll watch it as well.
What do you think? Do you agree with Mr. Joel, or do you think he's just winding us up about it? Let us know in the comments below. So we just wanted to come on, and it's been a while since we chatted with you here on Hands Across the Water. We've got our own individual videos, as I mentioned. Tony had his. We just dropped our most recent video where we kind of did a mashup of Flowers in the Dirt and Off the Ground, and we called it Flowers in the Ground, and what would constitute one album if you took the best out of both. And we've had some lovely comments. Beatley Tone, of course.
My list is right here. That's where I wrote down my list that I put in the comments on that video.
And the bugger put in Biker Like an Icon on that thing.
There was a girl who loved a biker.
Yeah. This one, as he says in Paul's Life, this one's called Biker Like an Icon. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
before we say goodbye, Tony, I know the answer to this question, but I ask it anyway. You haven't dived in and gotten the last batch of the SHMs, have you? I know you.
I haven't. No, I haven't dived in on any of those.
Any of them. I knew that.
This time. But I'm sure they're great. I mean, what people are saying about it, I've heard you say talk about it as well, is people love the packaging of it. I do have a few SHM CDs, not from this series, but I've got Abbey Road on it. I've got McCartney 3 on it. I've got a Walls and Bridges one. I think I've got Egypt Station. So I think there is a small improvement in the sound, but I think what people really love about these is the little mini LP format of it, and
the Obi strips,
the packaging. It's very well done.
It is well done, and I do think that, especially with the half-speed masters on vinyl, it's the same thing with this. The earlier Macca albums really sonically sound better on the SHMs and the half-speed masters. We're talking McCartney, Ram, Wildlife, Red Rose Speedway. Those four, whether you get them on SHMs or those half-speed masters, those are so much better improved when you listen to them. Would you agree?
Yes, I think so. So the versions of the albums that they've used for these is the remastered archive, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Going from that point on. Now, of course, these are a little bit different. I know back when Venus and Mars 50th half speed came out, we got a Dolby Atmos mix of that, and there's some wonderful little nuances you can hear. But of course, these aren't Dolby Atmos. Some of them, there's a couple that are Dolby Atmos: McCartney 2, Venus and Mars. So it becomes a really, you gotta really be bona fide collecting. And if you're not sonically going to improve, say Chaos or Paul is Live, or even the Amoeba gig, you get it for the packaging, and they're not too expensive. So if you like them from that point of view, you collect them.
What have they? Do you know what they've done with the mastering of those? Because some of those in the set have not been have not had a remastering for the archive, like things like the Amoeba gig or Chaos and New.
They haven't, but I think they're basing them off the reissued remasters that came out around 2018.
Yeah, the coloured vinyl.
Yeah, when that all came out,
I wasn't sure whether they had been remastered or not.
I don't think so, because back in I think it was 2018, Paul is Live got a reissue on CD, right?
Yeah.
And so did Chaos on vinyl. So I think that this latest batch goes back to these.
Okay.
So, it is funny, and we did say it on the Two Legs episode that, Tripping the Live Fantastic remains the orphan live album that just has not gotten the treatment. That's a shame.
Yeah. I guess Unplugged as well, I suppose.
And Unplugged, and I would like to say a shout out to our friends Serge and James Martinez. They were very vocal about that period and the Unplugged show and the secret gigs that were done in London. With Tony, did you see any of those secret gigs in 92?
No,
91?
No, I didn't.
Because there were a few.
Yeah, there were. I didn't see any of those. I don't think. Were they all unplugged like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I did. I don't think I did see any of those.
But that period represents an interesting, take on Paul's career, given the success that he's done with the guys that he's had for the last 24 years. These guys, say from 88 to 94. And there were some really talented musicians with Robbie McIntosh. Did you get a chance to look at his interview yet?
I haven't seen that yet. No, I haven't seen, but I heard you talking about it.
Really good. Very complimentary about Macca and Linda and how he got into the band. And the whole interview is about an hour's long, but the section where he's talking about Paul is about 15 minutes. It's really worth checking out.
Yeah. Okay. I will check that out.
So that's all the news that's fit to print here on this 2/3 installment of Hands Across the Water. Hopefully the next time you see us, it will be all three of us, and probably from a hotel in Chicago, walking around late at night, having fun.
Yeah. and of course the panel, Hands Across the Water live
edition, debunking Beatles myths. Stay tuned for the schedule on that, and any other appearances, panels that we will be on. We will share that with you. So have a lovely night, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. See you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.